Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hello.
the this live stream by the International Union of Scientists. And today we are joined by. So first of all, I'm Adam Clark Chang. I'm a member of the International Union of Scientists, and my co-host today is Michael Gasser, who's also a IUS member. And today we're joined by AGAM, the Advocates of Science and Technology for the People from the Philippines. It was born in the organization was born in 1999 when Filipino researchers decided that science should serve regular people. And for 25 years, the organization has fused rigorous science with grassroots action. Joining us are uh, Kreng Jolv, AGAM General Secretary, Chucky Calzado, AGAM Chairperson, and Jenna Rodriguez, Advocacy and Alliances Lead. So please, if you could introduce yourselves individually and just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi guys, hi everyone, wherever you are. Maybe good morning, good afternoon, good evening. uh, I'm, by the way, I'm Chucky Calzado. I'm the current national chairperson of AGHAM. My background is on bioethics education, and I've been working as a high school teacher for the past 17 years. And I've been with AGHAM how, how long? Since 2017, I think. So 8 years.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And again, as what Chucky mentioned, to the different time zones that are watching right now, I'm Kleng Hulve. I'm the current Secretary General of AGHAM. I'm a forestry major, and my interests include doing science work for the people, particularly on environmental science. And I've been with AGHAM since 2015, I think. And here's Jenna.
Hi, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna again. I'm the Advocacy and Alliances lead of AGHAM. So, my background is more in the social sciences side. So, I majored in political science. And what we in AGHAM, we lead science informed advocacy campaigns that really bring into light issues where science can either better or worsen the conditions of the people. So we in we tackle that and campaign for science that actually serves for the benefits of the people.
Great, thanks so much. So Kleng, maybe we can start with you. Can you give us a short overview of the history of Agam?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. AGHAM, Pinoy's love acronym, but the common misconception is AGHAM is not an acronym. So there's a joke that the Filipinos can make out acronym almost of everything. AGHAM is actually a Filipino term for science. So it means science. It was established in 1999, actually in a basement of the National Institute of Geological Sciences. A bunch of scientists were having a discussion on the state of science and technology in the Philippines, and of course, years have passed. They are so frustrated that it's still backward and stunted due to the centuries of colonization and imperialism. And this group of progressive scientists, some of them were founding members of other progressive organizations who fought the Marcos dictatorship in the 70s and even joined the underground movement that ousted the Marcos senior dictatorship. And they decided that maybe we can put up an organization that the mantra is making science and technology serve the people, because science and technology concerns are intertwined with the people's issues, and science does not live in a vacuum. It is it is affected by socio-political situation. So it should be biased to serve the interests of the Filipino people. So for the past 25 years, we've been doing that. And the legacy of AGHAM, maybe I'm proud to say that the legacy of AGHAM is working with peasants, farmers, workers, indigenous peoples, in using science and technology, for example, to demand accountability from environmentally destructive corporations. Because a lot of development aggression is happening in the Philippines, and um, most of the times when the people are aggravated by these disasters, and the companies are just easily saying, no, it's just force majeure, it's the it's the we're not, you know, we're not
The reason.
we're not the reason for it. So we've been doing environmental investigation missions, for example, to provide evidence and demand accountability from these companies. Um, AGHAM was also known to compute for the super profits, for example, of overcharging of electricity rates, that forced Meralco. Meralco is one of the biggest electricity distribution companies in the Philippines. So it was overcharging a lot from the consumers, and what AGHAM did was compute the overcharging that it did, which amounted to billions of pesos, and they were forced to refund it to the consumers, but they have not refunded fully yet. And of course, AGHAM has also opposed programs and policies that put the people in a disadvantaged position, through decades of liberalization, deregulation, privatization of essential public utilities and services. And of course, and aside from critiquing these things that make the put burden to the Filipino people, we also advocate for the wishes and aspirations, not just of scientists and technologists and engineers, but also of the Filipino people, in making national industrialization, and advocating for national industrialization, and advocating for an economy free of imperialist domination and control, so that it can truly serve, science and technology can truly serve the interests of the marginalized. So I think that's a bit of introduction about who we are as AGHAM.
That's great. Thanks.
The third G.
Yeah. Okay. So, Chucky, how would you uh, describe or characterize the state of science in the Philippines at the moment?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so some people will think that, especially if you're in Singapore, will think that, oh, science is very in a state of high technology or high tech, as we call it, right? So you have a very fast internet there. So some people, if they stayed in Singapore, they will think that, oh, wherever I go, you'll have fast internet. Or if you're in the US, you are in Europe. But that's not true for the Philippines. So AGHAM's analysis of science and technologies here in the Philippines, that it's backward and stunted. Why is it backward and stunted? It's because of the analysis of the current society. What is the Philippine society? It's a semi-feudal, semi-colonial society. So you have you still have the landlords owning vast hectares of lands. We have this when we sometimes when we go talking with international colleagues, we ask them, do you know the concept of hacienda? And they don't know that. Why? Because it's a language rooted in times where the Philippines was still a colony of Spain. So, but still, it exists in the Philippines. So that's under
Happening.
semi-feudal relationship wherein you have farm workers toiling the land, and then only the landlords are earning from the work that our farmers are doing. And then you have still colonization of our country. You have neo-colonization. So you have a semi-colonial relationship with America and some other imperialist country who want our resources. So from that relationship, the farmers, the Filipino, the common man cannot own the land. If you don't own the land, how can you uh, have power in this society? How can you dictate what science will do for the people? So it's backward because we have this. We always show this in presentations. You can find a carabao in hieroglyphs in Egypt in the pyramids, and still that's the reality here in the Philippines. There are some uh, areas that will use machines in tilling the land, but still they will force the farmers to use carabaos. Why? Because of, again, as Kleng was saying a while ago, because of the super profit. It's not really about maximizing the land. It's mostly about controlling the land and owning the resources from that land. It's backward. Why? As we keep on saying here, we have the uh, most expensive electricity, one of the most expensive internet connection, but it's one of the, if not the slowest. So we know that some technology, we can access EV cars, we can access these modern benefits from technology, but the question is who are benefiting from them. So the common man, the common Filipino, has no access to that. So in terms of our analysis of why is it backward, why is it stunted, it's stunted because those who are in power will not push for for a science and technology that will benefit everyone. Government support for research and development is grossly inadequate, which with budgets failing for far below international standards. If we're going to look at the percentage of GDP that the UN is requiring countries or telling countries to allocate,
For developing
for
countries.
developing countries. It's below. Philippines still lagging. It's below 1%. So what can we expect from that? No? So, and also you have the state of Filipino scientists. I think we can say that Filipino scientists are can compete with their international colleagues, but they are not given the chance to harness their intellect to make technology that will benefit the people. Why? They are forced to do science that will benefit only the few. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it's we see that it's backward and stunted because only a few people benefit from them. So pushing for a science and technology that will not benefit most or the common man here in in the country.
Yeah, it's so so. Thanks for that sort of analysis of the problems, Jenna. How would you say Agam is fighting for a pro people science agenda to address some of the issues that Chucky mentioned?
Yeah, so since our um, science and technology is backward and stunted, uh, one campaign that we push for is for the Philippines to undergo national industrialization. So we see the problem of this backward science and technology as a reflection of the fact that Philippines doesn't have its own industries. It still relies on uh, even basic materials like steel, uh, like for manufacturing, we don't have the materials to do the most basic manufacturing processes on our own. So that reflects in how science and technology is not prioritized in 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 the economy and in the society. So it also reflects on how science how there are very few scientists per compared to the population of the countries. So um, yeah, so our pro people science agenda is not just calling for the development of science and technology in a vacuum, but we see it as we need to revitalize our entire economy. We need to build national industries. We need our farmers to break free from being tied to the landlords and gain ownership of their land. We need through mechanization of our agriculture industry, and that the all of that in sync will um, result in a better science and technology situation for our country. So we believe that scientists should, of course, it's in our name. Science should serve the people, and scientists should serve the people. So we encourage our members and scientists in general to work with basic communities, to learn from these communities, to learn from each other. In the process, make science and technology uh, genuinely serves the interests of the Filipino people. So we do this by different techniques. For example, we provide direct technical support services, like what Kling mentioned investigate about environmental investigation missions. We also um, conduct science-informed advocacy campaigns on issues where science and technology can affect the welfare of the people. So, and we also we kind of own the term, and we use the term scientist activists, because we believe that um, science should not be separated from society. Science should not exist in a vacuum. Scientists should not exist in a vacuum. Because science is political. Science and technology is not neutral. We believe that it's a tool, and whoever owns that tool gets its benefits. So it's up to us, the people, the pro people scientists are working hand in hand to claim science so that we can use it for our own benefit.
People's benefit that
Yeah.
really need it.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so I mean, just I guess as a speculative question, a follow up. You know, um, some countries do invest a lot in science, right? I'm thinking now, relatively speaking, China is becoming a science superpower, and Israel, is quite famous for such a small country to be, very heavily invested in science. And you know, I come from Australia, which is also sort of it's a very wealthy country, but it's also sort of just used for its resources essentially, right? And the science has been underfunded traditionally, I think, for a rich country. So, and then I was thinking that, maybe it is that there is some imperial agenda that they don't want vassal countries or resource countries to develop their science. Do you feel that the political class in the Philippines or the elites actively oppose? I mean, because you can see the benefits of scientific development, right, for the economy. But do you think that they have an agenda to actually oppose scientific development? Or is it not even, it's just not on their agenda, that they're too busy taking resources and collecting rent? Or I don't know, what do you think about this? I mean,
Go ahead, Chucky.
I think to say that maybe it's not within their remit or not within their perspective to develop science is actually giving them the benefit of the doubt. But I think they're conscious about that. Here in the Philippines, they would rather collaborate or work with imperialist interests. So they will pass policies that will benefit them together with the imperialist countries. So, for example, with what was passed in the COP with uh,
Loss
the
and damage
loss and
fund.
damage
Uh-huh.
fund, for example. So it's making a local policy with the loss and damage in relation to the international agreement with that is that will not actually benefit the interests of the people. It will benefit the interests of those in power. That will benefit the interests of the local collaborators. As an example of that, here in the Philippines, we have problem with flooding the past year and the past month, and we've seen that billions of pesos were utilized. But the question is, where are those billions of pesos going? So in terms of, say, I think they know the benefit of science, but to benefit everyone, that is not their interest. So before developing science, they would rather pocket the resources. The Philippines is not a poor country. The
We're very
Philippines
rich.
the Philippines is a rich country.
In terms of natural
We look like a small country because of the Mercator projection. So, but we're bigger than a lot of European countries. And in terms of resources, we have a lot of. We are always in the top 10 of production in gold, in silver, in
nickel,
copper, nickel.
essential
But the
minerals.
question is, where are they going? So they are going out of the country. So they are being mined by Australia. They are being mined by the USA. So we are not benefiting from them. So there's no the people in power are not making the condition to create that industry. As an example, a mining industry, because it's they just need to benefit from the in putting money in their pockets, lining their pockets from international companies. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, can I
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
add?
that sounds right. I mean, I think my hypothesis is verges on the edge of paranoia, but I think you're right that self interest is probably enough to explain. Right.
And I think it's just adding something.
Yeah, I
Oh yeah.
think it's not paranoia at all because
It's valid.
I actually think it's not in their interest to help us develop. In fact, it's actually in their interest to keep us at a state that is lower than them. Because if we develop, we'll just be another competition to them.
Right.
So
Right.
They want to maintain the dependence
yeah,
to these imperialist countries, and of course, as what Chucky and Jen has mentioned, we could see that it is reflected in the Philippine policies that we have right now that doesn't really benefit the majority of the people. We have, for example, trade agreements that are unequal. And what does it mean? For example, there's a rice liberalization law that um, dictated by the big financial interests like World Bank, and it basically means will be flooded by a lot of imported agricultural resources as an agricultural country importing rice. So could you imagine that? So it's
We've been number one in the past years importing
importing
rice.
rice.
important.
So that's just a few of the examples. So Adam, it's valid. It's not paranoia.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Um, so, Kleng, one issue facing global South countries has been the so called brain drain, where resources invested into training the next generation of scientists and engineers just end up benefiting richer countries in many cases. So, what is Agam's view on how countries like the Philippines can counteract the brain drain?
Yeah, that's thank you for that question. Actually, we should dissect first why does brain drain happen? Why do they leave in the first place? As Chucky and Jen has mentioned a while ago, science and technology in the Philippines is not among the priorities of the government, sadly. and funding for research and development remains really low, according to the UNESCO standard, which was just in 1990s. Could you imagine that? It should be 1% of the GDP, but the Philippines is spending less than 1%, around 0.32 or 0.42 based on the available data. And lack of funding means limited research is being done, and you cannot specialize more or do science. I mean, you cannot actually practice your interest as a scientist, and limited funding means limited job opportunities for SNT graduates. And aside from that, if you graduate and you have this highly specialized skill, for example, can you give an example on
Forester,
forestry,
microbio.
microbiology, for example, like that? And there's, since we don't have our own industries, um, actually we have our showbiz industry, for example, but like really heavy industries. For example, industry. If you're a petrochemical engineer, like that, we don't have that here in the Philippines. We have that, but some of them, most of them are foreign owned, and um, there's limited job because we don't have. If we graduate, SNT students graduate from SNT courses, but actually not many students pick SNT right now because it's not really lucrative here in the Philippines. If you graduate, you don't have job, uh, or if you have a job, you will land in non-science and technology related job, which has lower pay, and sometimes you could even experience pay delays. So I'd like to say hello to our members here, watching here in YouTube live, who are experiencing um, pay delays as contractual researchers doing actual research. So basically, the brain drain is a symptom of a bigger problem of the lack of support, having no industries, limited job opportunities that can absorb these SNT graduates. So we can.
And to add to the question of brain drain, we also have to see that historical perspective and to the current policy. It's still born from the labor export policy of the Marcos Senior that is still being continued to the current regime. So they're not just pushing the common Filipinos, no. So it is from the skilled to the highly skilled. Well, actually, we don't even have to differentiate between skilled non-skilled workers, but they're pushing everyone out. So now the question of how can we address this brain drain is to call out this false solution or in terms of policy. So for example, here in the Philippines, they have the balik scientists. So, oh, okay, so you push scientists out, now we can pull them in. But the question is, why are you pushing them out in the first place?
Yeah.
So maybe we don't need the those kind of programs if in the first place we are not pushing them out. We are not, because the opportunity to practice your discipline, the opportunity to practice your profession is already here. But again, going back to the initial answers, our initial answers, because it is in their interest not to develop the country, not to industrialize, not to nationalize those industries. So there is no opportunity here. And how do we can count? And then that's the reason they go out. So how do we counteract that? Again, create that environment, cultivate the soil here in the Philippines of opportunities for our scientists, for our students, for our teachers, for everyone.
So they don't have to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can use their skills and interests in actually serving the people.
Do you find that there's anyone in the government, elected officials, who are receptive to this message, or you don't try to engage with those people because they don't listen?
We have pro people, congressmen,
Lawmakers.
lawmakers, but again, they are a minority. There might be some people who might be kind of a progressive, but the question still remains. If you look at their history of the laws that they passed, it still served the interests of other countries. So, for example, you'll see, okay, they're kind of doing progressive policies, and then you'll see that they will sign the anti-terror law that actually read is a reason why kind of normalize the killing and the arrest of activists, or they will sign the 100% ownership of businesses or land here in the Philippines. So, yeah, probably you will be in partner with some issues, but again, uh, will they be will they be with you until the end of fighting for that legislation? So, yeah, again, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Chucky, you've previously mentioned AGAM's involvement in grassroots science education. Can you tell us more about this project and what radical scientists in other countries can learn from your successes and the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so AGHAM has has it's not AGAM's work is not only centered at campaigns, at mobilization, at protests, because hand in hand, we need to learn from the communities as we also teach the communities. It's a co-learning, co-designing of this of what we have to of how we understand our society, the Philippine society. So AGHAM for the past 25, 27, 26 years have been in the forefront of being with communities, for example, teaching about dengue, teach and then learning from them about how they understand the dengue as something that ravage their communities, or in terms of computing for their electricity bills, how much their electricity is actually is being used to exploit them or oppress them. And also we also in the past years, some of the bigger uh, do we call it bigger or a larger campaign that involved science education with communities is with the Lumad School. Lumad are indigenous people from the southern part of the Philippines who have been for the past or for several decades are fighting for their self determination and their ancestral domain. So we work with them in terms of developing their STEM curriculum before the previous regime, the Duterte administration closed down the schools. So we also been part of urban poor communities in developing their curriculum. So it's in different ways. Some will call this citizen science, some will call it other terms, but yeah, we will subscribe to them. But it has a specific what you call it framework, a nationally scientific, mass-oriented culture or education. So I think there's a need for that framework because we have to see the Philippines as a nation in itself. Who is the Philippines? So maybe it is still we need that kind of discourse of asking who the Philippines is before we can for us to know how our resources will benefit us, how we can use those resources in the discussion of science and scientific in terms of so that we can address pseudoscience, how current discourse from the ruling elite pushes us in the margins, or telling us that, oh, okay, flooding is a normalizing flooding, for example, when in fact we can address it in terms of scrutinize it scientifically. And then it's orientation. So it, in terms of what we said a while ago, that science should benefit the people. When we say the people, it's not everyone, because for the past hundreds of years, it's the ruling elite who has been gaining from science and technology. So for us, science, in terms of the science education, should benefit those from the margins, the marginalized, the oppressed, the exploited, because if only those who are in power will benefit science, we will remain being exploited, being oppressed. So I think that's the goal of AGHAM in terms of its science education campaigns. So maybe Leng or Jenna would want to add something.
Yeah, I think one of my most favorite activities in Agam is the People Science School. It was um, it was a really a nice experience working with the Lumad people in co-learning, co-production of knowledge. They have this very rich local and indigenous knowledge system, sadly, that is currently being erased by development aggression, by a lot of projects, um, development projects such as mining, logging activities happening in their ancestral lands. And we learn a lot from them, from their culture, from the indigenous knowledge of um, conservation, for example. And aside from that, as what Chuck has mentioned, one of the contexts of having the People Science School is the fact that there is a lack of culture of science in the communities because of the lack of access to education. So some of the communities that we've been working with are um, don't have access to the formal education. Of course, they have informal education that they've learned from through experience and through their culture. So it's really important. Actually, one of the activities of our youth arm, we have our youth arm. We'd like to say hello to Agham Youth. They will be having a people science school actually in an urban poor community which is heavily affected by flooding and disasters here in the National Capital Region. So if there are Filipino youth watching right now, you might want to join the People Science School by Agham Youth, and of course we have here Agham Old. Sorry, so, we are also joining as an organization in this initiative.
And also, for those who are watching or who want to call learn with us, you can we can have a discussion how these campaigns actually work in concretely. So yeah,
In different contexts, maybe we can collaborate.
yeah.
If you have your own citizen science or community science education initiative, so we could further develop our practices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're open to
yeah.
that.
Great. So, Kling, as an island nation in the Pacific, the Philippines is in the crosshairs of climate change, especially with the frequency of typhoons. And you said that it's been raining nonstop almost for 2 months, right? So, and can you describe some of the community-led responses to these threats?
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. Actually, for the past 2 hours, we've been mopping our floors before this live podcast. We sadly the flood went through inside our home, so it's a reality for most of the Filipinos, not just here in National Capital Region, but in different areas, and it's it's actually Philippines is in the highest in the World Risk Index for consecutive years in terms of vulnerability to disasters. That's really sad. And aside from the extreme heavy rainfall, um, there's a trend for the past, if I'm not mistaken, is this
Past
last
three,
year or 2 years
4 years,
that we
3 years.
experienced cancellation of classes due to high heat index. So we cancel classes because of usually we cancel classes because of rain, heavy rain. But now the trend is we cancel classes because it's really, really, really hot, and you cannot learn in that kind of environment. And sadly, it is aggravated and also caused by corruption, by bureaucrat, as we say, bureaucrat
Capitals.
capitalism in the government, wherein government officials are treating their position supposedly as public service but as a business. So as evidenced by um, currently here in the Philippines, there's a lot of anger from the people because of billion peso failed flood control projects. So in fact, around 680 billion pesos has been allotted by the Marcos government from the people's money through in just flood control projects in different parts of the Philippines. But we didn't actually feel the flood control. We feel the flood. It's flooding a lot of homes. It's killing a lot of people, and as scientists, what do we do about these disasters? It's really important um, to counter the narrative, the main analysis of the government that it is caused by climate crisis. We can't do anything about it, so we just have to accept it. Actually, it's what our president said in
Normalized.
in
Is it?
July, I think, just this year, that normalize it. So it's force majeure. So as scientists, we've been doing this the past years. We gather a research team to provide analysis regarding the impacts of government negligence, for example, that raise our vulnerability as a country. So we have disaster research and analysis that actually the latest was during, I forgot the name of the I
Karina.
forgot the
Krising.
names of the
Krising.
Krising, that actually there's a lot of rain and our current infrastructures cannot manage that kind of extreme weather event. And aside from that, one of the major findings that we have is that first, the government of Marcos Jr. and even before, is really fixated on technofix, gray structural solutions, flood control here, flood control there, and billions of pesos been putting into it. But there is no comprehensive approach to the flood problem, such as there's no watershed management, a proper watershed management plan. Environmentally destructive projects are still continuing. There's mining that cut a lot of trees in the mountains. There's big reclamation projects, such as in Manila Bay, that hinder the flow of water. So it's so sorry for the term. It's really stupid putting up this big amount of money to this failed flood control, which is proven to be corrupt ridden. Some of these projects are not existing at all. So what I'm saying is that aside from this disaster analysis, we also do AGHAM has a long history of working with communities affected by different environmentally destructive projects such as mining, large dams, reclamations, and we've been doing environmental investigation mission. It's a rapid impact assessment, just like an EIA, a sort of EIA, but it's shorter. It has a citizen science approach, mobilizing scientists and communities affected by these um, environmentally destructive projects. And our objective is to gather evidence for accountability, for proof that these particular projects really harm the people, the environment, the culture, and we use the research to amplify the campaign. So the climate crisis is a really big, complex problem, but actually it's rooted in imperialism. To in short, it's because of climate imperialism, and we as scientists, we can we have power to be with the communities and change the narrative.
Yeah, and I
And
think just to add
go
to
ahead.
that is maybe some people who are watching might misunderstand, or in the context of what was said a while ago, that it comes from the scientists first before the community. But what we're saying is that it's a co-work, scientists and the communities are co-working together, because without the community, the theories, the analysis of the scientists will be anchored on what, right? It will be anchored on theories that might not be based on what the concrete condition of the community. So we just want to highlight that for every analysis or the effort in analyzing these disasters brought about by bureaucrat capitals here in the Philippines, it's always anchored on the conditions, on the experiences of the communities. So yeah.
Climate justice.
Yeah, so Jenna, for many years, the US has had a huge military presence in the Philippines, and it's now again growing as they prepare for a planned military confrontation with China. What is AGAM's position on the U.S. Presence, and what are the political, environmental, and social consequences of this presence, and how are you guys opposing it?
Yeah. So uh, for a bit, let's go back, I guess, in history. So the Philippines, as a former, it's a former U.S. colony, and even after so-called independence, we are still um, like deeply influenced U.S. By the U.S. Government. So in the 1990s, actually there was a U.S. base here in the country, but uh, due to the opposition of the people uh, and the um, revealed that it is the presence of the U.S. military in our land is literally toxic, um, because of the toxic way. Well, for one, the toxic ways that the military operations left behind, um, and the weapons and also the chemicals that they um, import in to the country. So uh, those U.S. bases were removed, but actually they never really left because of different ways to circumvent
The law.
the laws, like the visiting forces agreement, the mutual defense treaty. U.S. Troops still regularly um, station in the Philippines under the guise of so-called like helping each other to uh, military cooperation.
They're
Um,
visiting forces agreement, but they're not really visiting.
yeah,
Do you
that
have a visitor that stays here for so long?
yeah yeah. I mean, I know Filipinos are known for being
Hospital.
hospitable, but this is too much. Yeah. Um, so with the current geopolitical situation right now um, in the region in Southeast Asia, actually even in Asia in general, with the U.S. really like it is entering the region under the s- like guise of it is protecting the weaker nations like the Philippines from regional aggressors like China. But in reality, it's outrightly provoking uh, China uh, to basically an all-out war to explode in the region. So obviously we are not happy with that. We definitely think that the U.S. presence only worsens uh, the already unstable situation uh, in our region, and um, yeah, it is dragging the Philippines and other countries into its own wars.
Yes.
So its own imperialist wars, and even uh, right now they are proposing like
An
an
ammunition
ammunition
depot.
factory,
A naval base.
naval base here in our country. They're not even hiding the fact that they want to use us as a weapons base, and we were very mad at that. We oppose that, and so yeah, because it's been proven from history that um, the um, presence of the U.S. Military is not beneficial socially. Uh, the U.S. troops bring um, uh, danger, rape of our lands, of our
People.
women, of our people. Of, yeah, and yeah, it's very basically toxic to our environment, and we oppose that. Actually, it's not. We can't even call it military exercises or visiting forces anymore because they're always there, and we keep trying to uh, get
Campaign
them
against.
out. We keep trying to get them out, and we're part of the campaign we're part of the movement to um,
Oppose.
oppose to uh, tell the tell the
Kick
U.S.
them out.
troops to get out. Yeah.
And just to add to that, also, not because we're against the U.S. military here, we're pro-China, or
Yeah.
if we've been campaigning or protesting against Chinese intrusion here in the West Philippine Sea, we are now pro-U.S. It's still anchored on independent foreign policy. And also to add to the discussion in terms of how the presence of the U.S. actually brings us to this problem of possible war is that we have this analogy here in the Philippines. I don't know if this is true in Australia or in the US. If there's a heavy traffic in an area, it's because there's a traffic enforcer. So it's the same analogy that if there's a possible war, there is US there, right? So wherever there is a war, from since World War II, there's that historical accounting of how many proxy wars have been
Yeah.
pushed out by the interests of different U.S. presidents, and we always know how to win the U.S. election: win a war. So maybe that's why they're pushing for another war here in the region.
And
Yeah,
just to add with what Chucky is saying, so we're not pro US, we're not pro China, we're pro
Pro
Philippines.
Philippines.
We're pro having our independence without the whims of these imperialist giants. They have yeah, don't drag us into into your own war.
Yeah.
yeah. In Australia, they always joke, "Oh, we have to go to war Who with? Oh, with our biggest trading partner, right? It's like, um, so
Thanks.
I'll
Thank
just.
you very much. Yeah, go ahead, Adam. Yeah,
Oh yeah. So Michael, please ask the
yeah,
question.
yeah. We only have a few more minutes. Thanks so much, folks, for all these insights. Really into. I wish we had a lot more time, and I think we need another one of these. Um, but our organization, the International Union of Scientists, is proposing a kind of loose network of organizations like yours, an international network. And I know you already collaborate with other organizations like AGHAM, especially in Asia. I wonder if you could give us your thoughts about what we could gain by having an international network like this, of groups like AGHAM with groups in other countries in the global south and the global north, in terms of fighting climate imperialism and fighting the kind of other effects of imperialism that you've already talked about. So, Chucky, maybe you could take that.
Yeah, so I think the one way to answer that question first is to anchor it on where can we work with, right? In terms of what principles. We were joking in terms of how can we answer this question? Probably with AI. No,
AI is the key.
AI is the key. No, not AI in terms of artificial intelligence, but AI in terms of
Anti-imperialism.
anti-imperialist struggle. Why root it in anti-imperialism? I think we will all fall for that problem of being we might get lost along the way if we don't know the principles of that collaboration. You will be collaborating in terms of science for science sake, for example. There are a lot of groups here in the world that advocate for science and technology, but who are they? Are they for the people or are they for profit? Are these the people who won all the government contracts for COVID, for example? Are they the ones who sold all our face mask raw materials out west, out in the country, when we are the ones in the top five, top in producing that raw material for producing face masks during the COVID pandemic? So I think there is that need first to see that no, we cannot sit in the same room. We cannot sit in the same table like the Mean Girls in that movie, right? So you don't sit with us if you are not anti-imperialist. You cannot sit with us if you use science for the benefit of the few. If you cannot sit with us if you are for the destruction of Gaza, for example. You cannot sit with us if you're going to use science in surveilling the people. You cannot sit with us if the science that you will be advocating is for destruction of lives, for exploitation, for oppression. And I think in terms of what is the value of collaborating, of that international science collaboration, is that we see that science does not exist in a vacuum. It also does not exist as islands. Or in the Philippines, we are not archipelagic, right? If we are indeed in archipelagic, we are in different islands in different countries. Let's build that bridge, and that bridge is international solidarity, and that international solidarity is working with organization that have that same interest of making science and technology work for the people. And maybe you can add more, like some of the collaborations that we've
Yeah.
been doing in the past.
Yeah, it's really important, as Chucky has mentioned, that the framework is anti-imperialism, because for the last 1 hour, we've been talking about the different problems of the science and technology in the Philippines, which is actually caused by imperialist control, by imperialism, and it's true not just for the Philippines but for other countries. With the same situation. So actually, we are excited to be part of that network of scientists. AGHAM is also part of the International League of People's Struggles. particular of the Commission on Science and Technology for People's Development, and um, other networks such as Oil Watch Southeast Asia, opposing the um, extractivism, imperialist control, opposing climate crisis, and even the people rising for climate justice. So we are excited to be part of another network, that we are on the same page. What we want to, what science should be. First, science is political. Science should side with the people. It's not. It should not be used for genocide, for apartheid, for furthering the oppression of the people. So maybe Jenna can. Sorry, or anyone can
Or
add.
for me, alas, together we have more in common than than the differences that we think that we see from each other. It's not we might have different color, we of the skin, we might speak different language, etc. But I think common among us, we speak the same language in terms of how science should work for the people, of how we should address the current
Mhm.
the problem caused by climate imperialism, of how climate imperialism use militaries in actually oppressing the people, in control on how governments control narratives. So we have that I think a vital role of being with the people, working with them, learning from them, and then amplifying their calls. Because to be separate with the people, I think we will. It's not really true science if we're just doing it as us, separate from the people. I think it's just like some smart kid in a basement doing their science, chemistry, and etc. Right? So who benefits? Always, we it might be a cliche. We always ask that question: for whom? Science for whom? And if it's an international solidarity, a science for whom? Science for these peoples who are fighting for a just society.
And we have advocates here watching with us right now. There are greetings from India, greetings from fellow members of AGHAM and other organizations as well.
Hi.
And also from South
And
Africa.
South Africa. Yeah. Thanks so much for that answer. I hope you can collaborate with us actually in writing the invitation to other organizations to join this network, because what you said was really, I think, the approach that we need. I mean, anti-imperialism unites us, and science unites us. And I think together there's a lot we can do.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Adam?
Yeah, thanks so much for a fantastic conversation, Chucky, Kleng, and Jenna. So it's been great talking with you, and hope to talk again soon. Cheers. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Ada.
Thank
Thank you.
you, IUS, for inviting us.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you for joining. Thanks
Happy
everyone
Sunday.
for listening and watching.
Thank you. Free Palestine.